As most of you know, the new Resident Evil series, Infinite Darkness, was just released on Netflix. This 4-episode miniseries takes place between the events of Resident Evil 4 and 5 and stars Leon S. Kennedy and Claire Redfield. Sort of. Let's talk about it. Infinite Darkness is the newest installment in the Resident Evil CGI films. And yeah, I'm gonna call it a film because even though it's technically 4 episodes, they're so short and unlike a typical episode of television that I can't even imagine why the decision was made to release it in 4 parts. And of course I watched it all in one sitting, as I'm sure most people did. There are going to be spoilers for the movie ahead, so if you still haven't watched it and decided to click this video anyway, there's your warning. Alright, the first thing I noticed was that the visuals were great. There were some scenes that were basically photorealistic. Now and then there would be some stiff animation in the characters' faces and really awkward walking cycles like with Leon here, but otherwise I think they did an excellent job. Leon and Claire's characters are alright. I think the voice actors did a fine job. Leon's personality seems almost in between his RE2 and RE4 personas. He doesn't have as much sass or cheesy one-liners as 4, but he's also not the bitter alcoholic from the later games and CGI films. Claire, on the other hand, doesn't really get much of a chance to shine in this film, at least in my opinion. It's very much a Leon-centric series. Tonally, Infinite Darkness is more of an action thriller. It's definitely not scary, at all. But it's also not a crazy Michael Bay flick like we see in the other animated films. They even dial back the gun kata and have more realistic fights. It gets a little zany near the end, but I think that's to be expected, even by the Resident Evil video game standards. The plot of the film is pretty predictable and, overall, unremarkable. It centers around an infection event that occurred in the fictional country of Panamstan in the year 2000. Panamstan is essentially Afghanistan, but with a much dumber name. Seriously, I could see the voice actors cringing every time they said it. Think about that. It joins Terra Grigia on the list of bad Resident Evil location names. Anyways, a group of soldiers gets Black Hawk downed in Panamstan, only for a special forces team called the Mad Dogs to go in and rescue them. But wait, the downed soldiers are zombies now. They rescue an injured soldier and flee the scene. The Mad Dogs realize that no one is coming to help, so they make their way back to base on their own. Fast forward 6 years. Leon is heading to the White House to meet with President Graham for some top-secret mission stuff. We're introduced to some other characters who are already there. Jason, the hero of Panamstan from 6 years ago, Patrick, the Leon doubter, and Shen Mei, the enigmatic Ada wannabe. There's also Secretary Wilson, the Secretary of Defense under Graham. The film makes a point to let us know that there is absolutely no way that anyone in that room could be a bad guy. Yep, definitely. Just as Leon arrives, zombies start attacking. He saves Patrick, curing the kid of his unwarranted Leon hate. The gang groups up and kicks some zombie ass. Oh, that's right, Claire's in this movie. As the team leaves the White House, Leon runs into Claire, who is a member of TerraSave trying to get funding for housing and schools in Panamstan. She shows Leon a sketch of a zombie attack that some Panamstani kid drew and says it looks a lot like Raccoon City. Leon ponders this for a moment and then leaves, but not before Claire says he looks really dumb in a suit. Secretary Wilson freaks out on the president and tells him that China is the enemy. Yep, not a bad guy. Leon, Jason, and Shen Mei get on a submarine and head for a secret facility in Shanghai. Leon hits on Shen Mei, further cementing the fact that 1. He clearly has a type, and 2. The Redfield bloodline will never continue and Leon only sees Claire as his dorky younger sister. Sorry, everyone. Mr. Kennedy wanders the halls of the submarine and catches a glimpse of Jason doing some shady shit with a sort of injector. Not a bad guy. Claire, who has been relegated to detective, investigates the 2000 Panamstan incident. Back on the sub, Leon and Jason have a heart-to-heart. Jason has super PTSD from the Black Hawk Down mission and tells Leon that he doesn't understand. Leon is like, yeah man, I kind of understand, and proceeds to completely undersell his experiences by saying, I was in Raccoon City, zombies are spooky. No mention of tyrants, Los Plagas, or giant stone Salazars chasing him over bridges. Jason and Shen Mei decide to murder everyone on board of the submarine, as you do. Leon gets attacked by cool-looking, zombified rat monsters that make me think someone on the writing staff was a big fan of Plague Tale. He gets away and finds Jason and Shen Mei, who are totally acting suspicious, but Leon plays along. Now in Shanghai, Leon confronts Jason about killing everyone on the submarine. Jason admits to it and says he's there to expose the US government for using Panamstan as a testing ground for a bioweapon. Leon refuses to join him and shoots him square in the chest. He then chases Shen Mei to a different location. Meanwhile, Claire finds out that most of the soldiers involved in the 2000 Panamstan incident have committed suicide. There are 2 left, including Jason. She goes to the other guy's house, only to find that he too has used the self-checkout. Before leaving, she finds a vital note left by the soldier exposing Secretary Wilson. Leon discovers that he has followed Shen Mei to her home. There he learns that the soldier Jason saved 6 years ago was her brother, and that he has been kept here as a zombie until they could find a way to cure him, or at the very least use him and a recovered data chip as evidence against the government, but more specifically, Secretary of Defense Wilson. Wilson was keeping the infected Mad Dog soldiers from becoming BOWs with an inhibitor and forcing them to do his dirty work. Leon accepts this explanation and completely forgets that she just helped murder an entire submarine full of people, as well as many White House officials. Jason seems to have other plans though and destroys their house. Everyone except Leon and Shen Mei die in the attack, although they manage to secure the chip with the evidence on it. Claire does a dumb thing and confronts Secretary Wilson about Panamstan. Later on, she is attacked and captured. Claire is demoted once again and is now a damsel in distress. Yikes. They're doing these women dirty in the CGI films. Claire and Rebecca have been through some shit, alright? Give them more credit. Wilson takes Claire to his underground lab and threatens her. Up above the lab, President Graham is about to give a speech written by Wilson, essentially declaring war with China. Jason shows up to the lab, transforms into a BOW, and infects Wilson. This triggers an automatic BOW containment protocol in the lab, which begins filling up with acid. Shen Mei leads Leon to the lab where she is promptly killed by Jason. Jason just wants to show the world true fear by revealing himself and what the government has done. Makes you wonder why he bothered coming down to the lab and risking confrontation when he could have just stayed above ground and crashed the president's speech without hassle. Oh well. Leon tells him to get bent, grabs a sexy rocket launcher, and fights him. Oh, and Claire is there too, I guess. Before dying, Jason tells Leon that as long as he's alive and a witness to the fear and terror, it will continue to spread. Having gotten word from Leon about Wilson, President Graham doesn't give the war speech and instead gives an inspiring one. The day is saved. Elsewhere, we see an infected Wilson taking inhibitor injections from Tricell. Here's your connection. Later, Claire meets up with Leon again. She asks for the chip so she can expose what happened, but Leon refuses. Claire calls his suit ugly again and leaves. Leon says he'll stop the fear and walks off towards the White House. Perhaps foreshadowing a presidential run in his future? Who knows? I only say that because of the serious Tom Clancy vibes this series gave me. So, is Infinite Darkness worth the watch? Well, if you like the technical aspects of high-quality CGI films, yes. If you're a die-hard fan of Resident Evil, also yes. I would not recommend this series to your average Netflix viewer, though. It's lacking vital character development and background information that would otherwise help the audience connect with what little story there is. Even as a Resident Evil fan, Infinite Darkness doesn't shine any new light on the series. Hell, we don't even get a complimentary cameo character. You could completely pass it up and never know the difference. That said, it's probably more palatable than the other CGI installments, which may be a good or bad thing depending on how you derive your entertainment. Resident Evil Infinite Darkness gets to join the rest of the CGI films in the "at least they're better than the live-action movies" category. Thank you guys so much for watching the video. If you enjoyed this little review/recap, go ahead and leave a like for me. Also, if you want to see more Resident Evil content, specifically some cool guns from Resident Evil, go ahead and subscribe. I appreciate you.